Who's the next big Wonderkid? What happens when a 15-year-old is already this good?
Highlights reel in that game. It's honestly like you're watching Messi, which is, again, it's not something I should be throwing around because there's too much pressure on a 15-year-old kid, but his ability to run with the ball and run away from defenders, they just can't get him.
He's breaking Champions League records. Prague, Champions League night. Arsenal are already 3-0 up against Slavia Prague. And in the 72nd minute, a kid who's still in school jogs onto the pitch. 15 years and 308 days old, the youngest player to ever step foot in the Champions League. Younger than anyone. And here's the crazy part. While everyone's talking about Yamal at Barcelona, there's a kid at Arsenal who's quietly breaking records that have stood for decades. And the scariest part, this is just the beginning of a story that nobody's really paying attention to yet. Today, we're diving deep into who Max Dowman really is, why people like Arteta and Wayne Rooney are absolutely losing their minds over him, and the darker side of this new super teen era that nobody wants to talk about yet. We'll cover his journey from a 5-year-old joining Arsenal's academy to shattering Champions League history. We'll break down what actually makes him so special on the pitch, and then we'll talk about the elephant in the room, the pressure, the risk, and what this all means for football's future. Stick around to the end, because I'm going to ask you a question about this whole Wonderkid phenomenon that I genuinely don't know the answer to. Let's rewind. December 31st, 2009. A kid is born in Chelmsford, Essex, into a family that bleeds Arsenal red. We're talking proper, die-hard Gunners. And from day one, Max Dowman's path seems pretty much set. He starts playing youth football at vidIQ Town. Nothing glamorous, just local youth football. But by 2015, when he's barely 5 years old, Arsenal come knocking. And this is where it gets interesting. Most academy kids bounce around different clubs trying to find their fit. Not Dowman. He joins Hale End at 5, and that becomes his home. For 10 years now, he's been inside one of the best youth systems in world football. That continuity, that matters. Fast forward to 2023, he's 13 years old. 13, and Arsenal throw him into the under-18s. Not the under-14s, not even the under-16s, the under-18s. Playing against kids 4 years older than him. And you know what? He doesn't just survive, he thrives. Coaches start talking about his height, his technical ability, how he glides past players like they're not even there. Then, people start throwing around comparisons. The next Kaka. Now, that's a massive shout, right? But when you watch him, you kind of get it. He's tall, elegant, scores goals from midfield, makes these runs that just carve through teams. He's got that same effortless quality about him. But here's where the scary element starts to creep in. He's hitting these milestones years earlier than even most elite talents. We're not talking about being a bit ahead of the curve, we're talking about a kid who's playing with teenagers as a pre-teen and making it look easy. Alright, let's stack up what this kid has done in just over a year, and I need you to really hear these numbers because it's genuinely insane. September 19th, 2024, playing for Arsenal's under-19 in the UEFA Youth League against Atalanta, he scores not just any goal, he becomes the youngest goalscorer in Youth League history. 14 years, 8 months, and 19 days old. That's a European competition. That's him putting his name into the history books before he's even eligible for a learner's permit. Throughout 2024-25 season, he's playing for the under-18s and he goes absolutely nuclear. Are you ready for this? 20 goals and 10 assists in 25 games. 20 goals from midfield as a 14 and 15-year-old. He bags a hat-trick against Leicester in a wild 5-3 win. Then, he goes and scores 4 goals against Reading in a 4-0 demolition. And these aren't tap-ins. We're talking about solo runs from the halfway line, driving at defenders, making them look silly. Meanwhile, he's already training with Arsenal's first team. At 14, he's playing for the under-21s. He's on the bench for senior matches. Everything's accelerating. July 23, 2025, pre-season friendly in Singapore against AC Milan. He comes on for Bukayo Saka. In penalty shootout, he scores. The crowd goes wild. And you can see it on Arteta's face. This kid's got something. August 23, 2025. This is the big one. Premier League debut, Arsenal vs Leeds at the Emirates. It's already 4-0 when Dowman comes on at the 64th minute. The ovation he gets? Unreal. The crowd know what's up, and within minutes, he's taking on Leeds defenders like he's been doing this for years. Then, in stoppage time, he wins a penalty. The kid's on the pitch for 26 minutes, and he's won a penalty on his Premier League debut. He becomes the second youngest player in Premier League history at 15 years and 235 days, only behind his Arsenal teammate Ethan Nwaneri. Wayne Rooney, watching this, says it's crazy and admits he was significantly older when he made his debut. Let that sink in. Wayne Rooney thinks this is early. October 29, 2025, EFL Cup, Arsenal vs Brighton. Dowman starts. Not comes off the bench, starts. At 15 years and 302 days old, he becomes Arsenal's youngest ever starter, breaking a club record that stood for decades. He plays 71 minutes, completes 5 dribbles, wins 4 fouls, dominates 9 duels against senior professionals, and Arsenal win 2-0. November 4th, 2025, Champions League, Slavia Prague. He comes on in the 72nd minute, with Arsenal already 3-0 up, and just by stepping onto that pitch, he becomes the youngest player in Champions League history, 15 years and 308 days. The first 15-year-old to ever play in the competition. He beats Mokoku's record by over a year. Arteta's reaction after that game? He says the first ball he gets, he takes people on. He starts the dribble and gets a foul. That is personality. That is courage. You can't teach that. You either have it or you don't. So, what makes him so special? Why are defenders already scared of him? Position. He plays as an attacking midfielder or winger, mainly operates off the right side, but he's got that classic number 10 background. He's versatile. Physical profile. He's about 6 feet tall, 1.83 meters. For a 15-year-old, that's big, and he uses that height with this long, gliding stride that makes his dribbling look smooth rather than flashy. He's not doing stepovers and tricks, he's just flowing past people. Dribbling, this is his superpower. Coaches constantly talk about how he glides past players and absorbs contact. You can see it in the clips. He drives at defenders, they lunge, and he just rides the challenge and keeps going. It's not just skillful, it's brave. Foul magnet. Here's a mad stat for you. In one half of a youth international, he got fouled 9 times. 9 in one half. 442 literally called him a foul magnet. And look, on one hand, that shows he's unplayable. On the other hand, that's a 15-year-old taking serious physical punishment, decision-making. This might be the scariest part for defenders. He's not just running at you with no end product. He's got the composure to pick the right pass, the awareness to know when to shoot, when to drive, when to release the ball. That hat-trick against Leicester, that penalty he won on his debut, that's not just skill, that's football IQ. End product. The numbers don't lie. 20 goals and 10 assists in 25 under-18 games. He's scoring at basically a goal every game, while also creating. He's England's under-19's youngest ever goalscorer, and in his tiny sample of senior football, he's already winning penalties and showing he can impact games. What you're seeing is a player who's already reading the game like someone years older, and that's what makes coaches go, you can't teach that. Now, here's where we get into the really interesting stuff, the stuff that makes this story bigger than just one talented kid. First, the loyalty angle. Reports say Dowman had bigger offers from Real Madrid, Chelsea, and Barcelona. Let me repeat that. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Chelsea all wanted him, and he said no. His dad apparently told clubs, "Arsenal is our club." At 15, that level of clarity is almost unheard of. But it also shows the kind of environment and family structure around him, which is crucial for what comes next. The Wonderkid arms race. Here's the thing, Dowman isn't alone. Lamine Yamal at Barcelona is still a teenager, with over 100 senior appearances. Esteval Willian signed for Chelsea and is already being talked about like the next Brazilian superstar. Real Madrid and PSG are scouting 14-year-olds across the globe. Rich clubs have figured something out. Why spend £100 million on a 24-year-old when you can develop a 15-year-old in-house? Why buy the finished product when you can shape the raw material? There are massive upsides to this. Financial, cheaper to develop than to buy. Tactical, younger players are more adaptable. Marketing, fans love a homegrown hero. But here's the scary side nobody wants to talk about. The pressure is immense. Dowman's already dealing with media attention, social media commentary, comparisons to players like Kaka and Yamal. He's 15. He's still in school. He can't even use the main dressing room alone because of FA safeguarding regulations. He has to have a chaperone with the first team. He literally went back to school in Essex after making his Champions League debut. Arteta knows this. He's constantly talking about managing Dowman carefully, about protecting him, about making sure he can cope. Because the question is genuine. What happens to a kid who grows up with this much spotlight from day one? We've seen Wonderkids flame out before. We've seen injuries, burnout, pressure getting to players, and usually that happens to kids who broke through at 17 or 18. Dowman's doing this at 15. Are we creating a generation of players who peak at 22? Or are we creating a generation that breaks at 19? I don't know the answer. Nobody does, because this is genuinely new territory. Look, the praise is everywhere. Wayne Rooney says Dowman has a massive future. Simon Jordan compared him to Lamine Yamal's potential. Arteta calls his instincts unteachable. But let's be real, for every Yamal who's thriving, there are dozens of Wonderkids we've forgotten about. Kids who couldn't handle the pressure, got injured, or just didn't develop the way everyone hoped. The scary thing about Max Dowman isn't just how good he is at 15, it's that we genuinely don't know what happens when a player grows up entirely inside this pressure cooker. That said, if there's anywhere to do it, it's probably Arsenal. Hale End has a proven track record. Saka, Nwaneri, Maitland-Niles, Willock, Nelson. They've got a coach in Arteta who clearly believes, but is also being cautious. And Dowman's got a family that rejected bigger money to stay where they feel comfortable. So maybe, just maybe, this is the one that works out. Maybe in 5 years we're watching him in an Arsenal shirt playing Champions League knockout games. Not as a cameo, but as a star. Maybe in 10 years, we're talking about him in Ballon d'Or conversations. Or maybe we're talking about what went wrong. Here's what I want to know, and I'm genuinely curious what you think. Do you think this new era of super young stars is good for football? Are we heading toward more players reaching their potential? Or are we going to see more careers burn out before they even start? And specifically for Max Dowman, where do you think he'll be at 23? Ballon d'Or conversations? Solid Premier League starter? Lost in the Wonderkid graveyard? Drop your honest predictions in the comments. Go bold, we'll pin the wildest accurate one, and in a few years we'll see who called it. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button. Max Dowman isn't just another Arsenal Wonderkid. He's the test case for what happens when a club bets everything on a 15-year-old to play like a fully grown star. Let's see how this story ends.